Hello, Declan here, and I am here to give you a review of an author. Not necessarily his books, just the author. And in case you haven't noticed, I am not a particular fan of this one person named Dan Brown. Now, why do I not like Dan Brown? Well, at least I don't like his writing. Could it be the history? Could it be that I'm Catholic and his stuff is so offensive to Catholics? I haven't seen propaganda this bad since I'm not even sure when. I want to leave the history aside. Forget the petty, pretentious, pedantic prattling of his heroes. Forget it. Forget it. I'm not even going to touch it, for at least to start with. Screw him. Let's take the Da Vinci Code and, well, let's call this a review of the Da Vinci Code, because I'm going to focus on that one a lot. That was the one I could get through. Step 1. Now, if you've seen the Da Vinci Code movie, the book opens much the same way. You have the curator of the Louvre running around the entire art museum and scribbling all over artworks with an ultraviolet marker, leaving clues and anagrams and clues that are puzzles and that sort of thing. Okay? Hold on. He's running around the entire museum. And I mean, he leaves markings on about half a dozen paintings. And he's being chased by a psychotic albino assassin monk with a limp. Hold on. Did you hear that loud snap right there? Whip crack. That was the sound of my credulity being stretched past the breaking point. The suspension of disbelief? The suspension didn't hold. It crashed. Now, he's intelligent enough to come up with all of these little codes and all of these clues, and he's even smart enough to put in a blockade between him and the killer, which doesn't work because, oh look, I can shoot between iron bars. Oops! But here's the problem. He could take all that time, but he can't run out of the museum. He's obviously outrunning the assassin! Do you know how long it takes to get to the Mona Lisa? The Mona Lisa is behind bulletproof glass. You have to take the key, unlock it, you have to swing the damn bulletproof glass open, scribble on the Mona Lisa, swing the bulletproof glass closed, lock it, and keep running. In that amount of time, which, let's say it takes 2 minutes, and be very generous about it. 2 minutes. I'm sorry, I could have run the hell out of the building by then. This assassin is taking so damn long to catch up with him. And let's say it takes 2 minutes per painting. So, this highly intelligent curator of the Louvre, who has all the keys, by the way, all the keys, he can't go through a security door and lock the guy out. He can't run and hide in the museum. To do this math, our first victim on the first page would have had to have had a 12-minute head start. And yet somehow, crazy albino person with a limp is managing to keep pace with him. How does that work exactly? I don't know. So like I said, I had problems. The prologue was 5 pages long in hardcover edition. That was my problem right there. Now, by page 100 of the Da Vinci Code, our main protagonists have outsmarted the ultra-conservative Catholic Parisian police officer and all of his henchmen and escaped the Louvre after our heroine has used the Mona Lisa as a shield. Ugh. Did you feel that? Did you hear that? That smack was my credulity whipping back around after the first time it broke. Now, it supposedly took 2 very brilliant people, because Obviously, Robert Langdon is brilliant. He's the only one who can discover this age-old conspiracy. It took them 100 pages to get their way out of a fucking art museum. The Louvre. That's it. And, oh, yeah, by the way, ultra-Catholic Parisian. Wait, I thought they killed off all the really good Catholics in Paris. You know, the 1970s, great big revolution, great big guillotine. Most of the practicing Catholic Frenchmen I've met say that all of the Catholics in France are rural, or they're in the United States, which is why I met all of these Frenchmen in New York. Last problem with the first 100 pages. The Mona Lisa. Do you know how big the Mona Lisa is? It's 30 by 21 inches. Not feet, inches. It's not even poster paper. You know, 30 by 21. 30 by 21. So that doesn't even cover your standard midget. Not to mention, okay, our heroine is now a murder suspect. Or at least an accomplice. And think about it for a moment. A murder suspect is holding a piece of artwork hostage. Says, "You can't shoot me, copper. I've got the Mona Lisa." 1. The standard New York City police officer, hell, the police officer of any major city on the planet Earth would say, "Screw that. That's what art reconstruction departments are for." End of story. Or, "Oh look, your shield is this big. Let's go take it. This big. Oh look, do your knees. Boom. Say goodbye to the kneecaps. Hip, shoulder, headshot. No matter where you hold the freaking Mona Lisa, it ain't gonna cover you. Congratulations, game over. Book over. Done." Even in the book itself, this evil ultra-Catholic Parisian cop said, "Shoot the painting!" It completely threw me. It so took me out of the situation. It was painful. I can't even get into the book. I could not get into the book long enough to enjoy it. Looking at more general issues, there are the characters. You know, I was not intimidating by any of the bad guys. The bad guys were, they were nothing. Spoiler alert, one needs 2 canes to walk around. And spoiler alert, one was self-flagellating, had some kind of cord around his leg that made him bleed. So, one's limping, one needs canes to walk around. Pardon the pun, but our killer albino monk was more colorful than either one of our protagonists. I mean, the killer had a backstory. I could empathize with him more than I could the heroes. Hell, I liked the Paris cop more than I liked our heroes from the moment he said, "Shoot the painting!" The female lead had a family background that was so much of a cliche. You know, "My parents died in a car crash. Our murder victim was the closest thing I had to a family. He was almost like my father." Let's beat the breast a little bit. And Robert Langdon, he was as personally colorless as the albino was pigmentally challenged. Seriously. Now, I think I watched every Alfred Hitchcock ever made, not counting the silent movies. Yes, there were a bunch of those. You know you don't need a detailed biography of everyone. I can't tell you anything about the previous history of Cary Grant from Notorious. Jimmy Stewart in any Alfred Hitchcock film? Can you tell me one thing about his parents, his hobbies, outside of what they do for a living? So, you don't need to have the full bio on a character to make the character colorful. Now, on the other hand, in my personal life, I've had bipolar friends, bipolar girlfriends, friends with multiple personalities. I have acted as a public confessional for my university. I couldn't open my book on campus without somebody coming up to me and telling me their life history. And every nasty thing that's ever happened to them. So, maybe the people of the Da Vinci Code had character. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I missed it. But I gotta tell you, I don't think so. Now, one running theme throughout the Da Vinci Code is there's a conspiracy of silence running around Vatican circles. Great big freaking deal. Welcome to every book, almost every book, where there has been a Catholic priest involved. Except maybe The Exorcist. But that's about it. Now, in the Da Vinci Code, you had the Opus Dei. The evil Opus Dei. They're ultra-conservative. They're loyal to the Pope. That's nice. Big freaking deal. So are the Jesuits. Now the Jesuit is the Pope. That would make things very interesting within the order. So, anyhow. And here's the problem. One of the bad guys in the Da Vinci Code was the evil Opus Dei cardinal. Because you always have to have an evil cardinal when you've got a Catholic conspiracy. Even I've got an odd-looking cardinal and a Pius Man. So, no big deal. So what? Problem. 90,000 members are in the Opus Dei. 90,000 people. 2% of them are priests. Those 90,000 people are mostly laymen. They're me. They're your average Joe on the street. They're your average Catholics in pews. Big freaking deal. How do you get a Catholic cardinal who's a member of the Opus Dei? The odds of that are so remote as to be astronomical. In fact, this past month, there was the first Jesuit cardinal? Jesuit bishop? Something like that? Gee whiz, hold on, we've got the first Jesuit pope putting in the first Jesuit bishop. I wonder if there's a connection there. Moving right along. You get my point. Now, really, you had to pick on the Opus Dei? You couldn't have found someone else who's been around for like 500 years? Which is like, I can get any order has been around for 500 years. Several societies have been around for 500 years. Like, I don't know, the Jesuits. And then you have another problem. You've got, okay, this big secret is going to destroy all of Christendom. It will destroy Christianity as we know it. And the fate of the Catholic Church, Christianity, is being handled by a cardinal and his pet psychotic killer. Really? Really? What? We were just discussing a major, massive conspiracy, weren't we? One that goes back 2,000 years. Shouldn't this be a discussion in the upper echelons of the Vatican food chain? We're the Vatican ninjas. According to Dan Brown's little universe, the Pope of angels and demons, who is newly elected, wouldn't do anything like that. In fact, it's noted in the Da Vinci Code that the Vatican wouldn't do such things anymore. Anymore? You mean there were Vatican ninjas? I want my Vatican ninjas! I want them now! If I'm leading a great big cover-up and 3 people stood in my way, I'm going to co-op a few Swiss guards who are all members of the Swiss military, maybe some ones with special forces training, and everybody involved will be dead. Any assassin I pick will not be a self-mutilating albino who sticks out like a sore thumb everywhere he goes. Although somehow, in both the book and the movie, the albino jumps out of nowhere. How do you do that? Like a 6-foot freaking albino wearing a monk's hood. You can't exactly go through downtown London looking like that. London, France. Pick a country, any country. If a monk is walking around outside in broad daylight, I'm sorry, I'm going to look at him funny. I've got major problems here. In the Da Vinci Code, the only thing this albino has that qualifies him as good assassin material is he's got a puppy-like loyalty to the evil cardinal. Where do people come up with these ideas? Seriously. Oh look, the only people in my way are an old man, a tech geek with the police, and some kind of Harvard nerd. And this assassin keeps getting his ass handed to him every time. You know, at the end of the day, I have college acquaintances who are better qualified to be Vatican assassins, and they're Jewish. You know, thankfully for Dan Brown's heroes, you know, aren't they lucky? All of Dan Brown's villains are dirt stupid, and they can't seem to afford, you know, help. Now, when I finished reading Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum, it was written a while ago. Believe it or not, the book was about Dan Brown decades before anyone ever heard of Dan Brown. The punchline of Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum, spoiler alert, is that we have a supercomputer where we fed in every single conspiracy theory that ever happened, and the computer made it all made sense. And then the bad guys are hunting down everyone involved in creating the supercomputer to get the clues to the conspiracy. However, the punchline was the computer made links and made it a coherent conspiracy because it's a computer. It tries to make things coherent. You give it a mathematical formula, it'll make it coherent. And the bad guys were just peons who had to justify their existence reaching out for some grand conspiracy that never happened. They see whatever they want to see, as long as the grand search continues for the truth is out there. In the Paris Review, and spoiler alert, Umberto Eco said that Dan Brown is a character he created. To make this ending non-spoilery, assuming you haven't finished the darn book already, because it came out, 7 years ago now? 8? At one point, we have our albino monk assassin standing in the rain, reflecting on his life. And that was the last time we saw the character. Nothing else. He disappeared. There is no conclusion to his story arc. There's not even a bloody word about what happened to him. According to Wikipedia, he dies. How Wikipedia came to this conclusion, I have no idea, because I stopped reading the book. I finished the chapter. I went back and reread the chapter. Like, where'd he go? I got to the end of the book. No more mention of the albino. It's like, flip. He's still alive. It doesn't say anything about him dying, damn it! But according to Wikipedia, he's dead, so therefore he's dead. Because Wikipedia is never wrong, right? Now, spoiler alert for the ending. Basically, if you believe that Jesus was a glorified philosopher, the ending's possible. Thomas Jefferson actually did something similar in his version of the Bible, which was like the regular Bible, only with all the miracles taken out. At the end of the book, Jesus was just a guy. He shacked up with Mary Magdalene. He spawned, and is theoretically possible if you can believe that anyone in his right mind would try preaching peace and love and charity during the Roman Empire. Which, if you're a public figure, the odds of you losing your head or being nailed to a set of 2x4s is very, very possible. In fact, I'm trying to think of a notable figure from the first 100 years who didn't die a horrible, horrible death. But here's the problem. In the book, The Da Vinci Code, part of the grand conspiracy is our heroine is one of the last descendants of Jesus Christ, and every major bloodline of royalty in Europe is a descendant of Jesus. Hold on. Between the 1860s and the 1890s, every direct descendant of Abraham Lincoln is dead. Following a direct bloodline, first of all, having a direct bloodline that lasts for 2,000 years is kind of hard. But having a secret society who tracks the genealogy through all of Europe, sorry, but the Mormons aren't that good at genealogy. Screw that. It's like Ancestry.com would be going, huh? No. Just no. Let's talk about the history of the Da Vinci Code for a moment, shall we? Forget the fact that the evil Catholics toppled Rome. The Catholic Church, no Catholics had an army until a guy named Constantine. You know what the problem with having a guy named Constantine sacking Rome and destroying the Roman Empire? Constantine was the head of the Roman Empire. In the Da Vinci Code, well, Constantine only became a Catholic, a Christian, because that was a way to keep the natives happy. Problem. Only 10% of the Roman Empire at the time of Constantine was Christian. A whole 10%. Either Constantine was the worst ruler ever, or he might have believed. The Da Vinci Code tried to pass it off as, oh, well, it's purely pragmatism. How it's pragmatism, I can't figure. Seriously. What world does this man live in? One where facts don't exist. Oh, God. The Catholic Church almost killed Galileo. Nobody was going to kill Galileo. They put him under house arrest. The house arrest he spent his time in was a palace, which happened to be owned by one of the Italian noble families that was against the the Italian noble family who is currently ruling the papacy. I'm shocked. Shocked, I say. I especially loved the line in the Da Vinci Code, movie at least, I don't remember if it was in the book, that Isaac Newton was condemned for gravity! Problem. Isaac Newton wasn't a Catholic. So if anybody was condemning Isaac Newton, it was the Anglican Church, the Church of England. As G.K. Chesterton once put it, any stigma to beat a dogma. And that's the Da Vinci Code. That's all of the history in the Da Vinci Code. And that's just even a small fraction of my problems with the history in the Da Vinci Code. It just keeps getting worse and worse. Now, speaking of history and Dan Brown, I'm going to make a little tangent with angels and demons. There's a point to this. There is a point to this. Well, in Angels and Demons, it's, oh, well, the Catholic Church killed off the leaders of the Illuminati. No, we didn't. We don't burn people at the stake unless they're heretics. It's, if they're claiming they're still Catholic and trying to lead a basically an internal revolt, and let's face, let me tell you, a lot of those heresies were, they made the people from Temple of Doom look reasonable. Okay? Some of those heresies were so nasty that later on during the Reformation, Lutherans and Catholics teamed up to wipe out some of them. That's how bad it was. Angels and demons, burning Illuminati at the stake. Never happened. Oh yes, there was a wonderful line in Angels and Demons about Winston Churchill was a Catholic. No, Winston Churchill hated Catholics. He was an Anglican. Church of England. Sorry, Dan. Wrong. Please, whatever you do, Mr. Brown, don't open a history book. Your plots will completely go down the hole, the memory hole. Spike. Oh look, I think it just splashed in the toilet. If I did a history blog on Dan Brown, I'd never finish. Now, like I said when I started, this was mostly a review of Dan Brown using the Da Vinci Code. However, to go a little bit more with Angels and Demons. The plot of Angels and Demons. Hold on. We're going to hire an assassin so we could rig the papal election so that our evil Irish priest can become pope utilizing an antimatter bomb. Now, let's hold on for a moment. An antimatter bomb. Welcome to Star Trek. We've got antimatter bombs now. Now, first of all, who in their right mind would use something that we don't know what it'll do? Antimatter, as a theoretical concept, if it comes in contact with matter, it would completely annihilate matter. Now, just splitting an atom is called a nuclear explosion. So, what happens if you had a complete annihilation of an atom? Completely gone. Boom. What happens when you release all of the energy? I don't know. You don't know. Let's put it this way. When the Manhattan Project first created the nuclear bomb, they were afraid that it would ignite the atmosphere. And that's just with a nuclear bomb. What would happen with an antimatter bomb? I have no idea. Nobody else does either. So, step one. Let's use a device that we have no idea what the blast radius will do. If you've seen the movie Angels and Demons, the Irish priest who has created this plot so he'll come out a hero takes the antimatter storage device, which is running out of charge, and somehow, magically in this universe, cold drains the life out of batteries. Which is funny, because I've always kept batteries fresh by leaving them in the refrigerator. I don't know how cold sucks the energy out of batteries in this particular universe, but forget that for a moment. So nobody knows exactly how long the antimatter device is going to maintain its containment field. So he doesn't even know what deadline he has to save the Vatican before this antimatter device makes a really big smoldering hole in the ground where the Vatican Hill used to be. Not just the Vatican City, Vatican Hill. It's on a hill. So, oops, that's a really big stupid plot. 2. I'm going to take this device up into a helicopter so high that it'll explode harmlessly and destroy no one. And I'm going to jump out of the helicopter with a parachute and land in Vatican City. 1. How high do you have to go to get out of the blast radius of a antimatter bomb? Nobody knows. Again, go back to the Manhattan Project. We don't know if the damn thing would set the atmosphere on fire. But, oh no, I'm just going to take it up to, let's say, 5,000 feet. I'm estimating because at 10,000 feet, you're pretty much going to die from a lack of oxygen. But no, we're going to take up the helicopter as far as we possibly go and jump out of it with a parachute and, hope the concussive force from the antimatter explosion doesn't knock our parachuter off course and slam him into a building and turn him into red tomato paste. This was such a convoluted, Rube Goldberg plot that one thing went wrong and the whole plot was dead. Which, oh look, something did go wrong, you know. And I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you lousy, rotten kids and your lousy symbologist too. I mean, good God, I've seen Scooby-Doo villains who've had more logical plots. Anyway, my blood pressure is going to go up if I keep talking. You know what? You don't have to like the Da Vinci Code or hate the Da Vinci Code to like my book. Read a Pius Man. Trust me, I make none of these mistakes. I don't have any conspiracy that goes over... Hold on. No conspiracy that's earlier than 1940. And I don't even think you can count that as a conspiracy. Read the book, you'll see what I mean. None of my villains are lumping psychos who will be pointed out in broad daylight, or even in the dark, considering how bright the albino is. And trust me, all of my characters are very colorful. Anyhow, I'm tired, it's late, and you're tired of listening to me. So, have a good day, and I will hopefully see you soon. Be well.
Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.